So tell us about Ralph Bakshi. You were fired by Ralph Bakshi, weren't you?
Yes, I was once, and fired on camera.
On camera?
Yeah, he actually said it in a cartoon, and he meant it. I'm surprised. But I love Ralph. I think he's great. He's one of my favorite people in the
Who's
business.
your favorite person to be fired by?
Yes, I have to say, if you're going to be fired, better to be fired by Ralph.
Well, if you haven't been fired by Ralph, you aren't in the animation business.
Yeah, I know. There's a long line of people who had that distinction.
Well, you were actually fired twice in one day, weren't you?
No, that's just a myth.
That's
It's a funny myth,
But it's a great myth.
it's
Did
a
he
great
call
myth.
your wife and say, Mary,
But-
Mary, forget everything I said about Mary.
Well,
Send me back
anyway.
up here. Everything's forgiven. Just so he could yell at you some more and fire you again.
First of all, I can't believe this film was ever made because it goes beyond anything ever done in animation so far as actually relating it to a real person. I mean, the audience is going to think that this is a character we made up or something, that nobody's really like that. And of course, there is. I mean, Ralph is a force of nature.
Ralph is
And
bigger than life. If there's a Mount Rushmore of animation, Ralph's right out there in front.
Yeah, Steve brought it to my attention in an email that human faces, that evolution is producing a smaller face as time goes by on human beings, but Ralph evidently has an experience that...
It's going to
that
be many
convinces-
generations below Ralph before that kicks in.
Ralph is a big bull moose of a guy. He's a wonderful cartoonist.
Which is great when you're working on a scene about Ralph and then the shadow falls over you. And the shadow falls over you and then the smell of cigarette comes over your shoulder and then a hand goes over your head and places itself on the drawing board. And when I say a hand, I've got pretty big hands, but this was a big hand with fingers that could crush beer cans. It just leans over you and then the voice comes from this side. Leans in.
fuck you doing?
He's like, well, the nice thing is it was almost always good stuff. He'd lean and go, oh. So the hair is now standing up on the back of your neck, and you're like, I'm dead. I'm dead. And he's like, that's fucking good. I like that. That's good. That's good. And then turn around and walk away.
See, that's the key to understanding Ralph. He's a huge bruiser of a guy, really street, I don't know, just a big guy. But yet he's actually an artist. He appreciates good stuff. And on Mighty Mouse, the Mighty Mouse that was done for TV, that I think started the whole animation revolution, he allowed that to happen. He could easily have stopped that. He fought for that. And I remember in the beginning of that project, he said to everybody there, he said, look, I've done some adult things in animation, and I don't want to be known for that. I want to make some money. I want to eventually retire, with a nice sum of money. Don't get me in trouble with these guys. We'll do something more drastic in the future, but Mighty Mouse, I want it to be real nice. Don't go out there, just follow the scripts. We're going to do everything the network wants and everything.
And you get a toe in the door.
And once John started to do the really creative stuff that was kind of edgy, which Ralph told us not to do, sort of, Ralph looked at it and he had to make the choice. Am I going to go with this and argue for it? Or am I going to think about my nest egg and my retirement and all this stuff? And Ralph...
Nest egg.
Yeah, he threw the nest egg out and he fought for it. But I think hoping, well, John, I'll do it, I'll fight for this, but please, next time, And John's, oh, sure, Ralph. And then he'd come up with something that was so brilliant that Ralph couldn't turn it down. See, this is just it. Ralph was an artist. He appreciated good art. He's capable of making good art himself. I love the man because of that. And I don't think the whole animation boom, the whole animation revolution that happened couldn't have happened if Ralph didn't have the integrity to put art in front of profit. I hate to say it in such a simple way, but it's true. He stood up for that, and thanks to that, a lot of other things happened in the future. He stood up for John. He fought for that. He just about risked his career for it, his TV career. I have a great Ralph story. I think we all do. Actually, all of us sitting here, many behind the camera, there's many Ralph stories to tell. One Ralph story that I like in the past was everybody's scared of Ralph because he's this big bull moose and roams through the studio screaming and yelling and all this stuff. And so one day, I hear him shout at the end of the corridor. He says, everybody stop. Oh, no, forgive me. I'm sorry. Wait, I started the wrong place. I'm talking to Ralph in his office, and we're talking about something related to the production, you know, and I'm just playing with my keys. And his set of keys looked just like my set of keys. So at some point I put my own keys in my pocket and I saw his keys lying on the desk there. And, you know, thinking they were mine, because I really wasn't concentrating, I was just thinking about what we were talking about. I started playing with those keys. And then finally when I got up, I put his keys in my pocket too. So I go back to my desk, and about an hour later, all of a sudden from the end of the corridor, booming voice, you know, everybody stop what you're doing! Find my keys! I can't find my keys! And so, you know, and it's just booming. I mean, you know, when Ralph yells like that, where are my keys? Yes. Lamps vibrate. Things fall off the wall, you know, posters and stuff. Tape won't stick, you know. So anyway, and he's booming, and he said, I have an appointment, I have to be somewhere in half an hour, and it's all the way across town. Where's my keys? I need my car keys. Everybody stop what you're doing, look everywhere, look in your office, look in anywhere you can think of, just look for my keys. And so, yeah, okay, you know, sure, I'll look for the keys. So I'm looking around, everybody's frantically looking under chairs and everything. And of course, since most of the artists are in one area, they're sort of tended to look there first, so one area got a lot of coverage. And so I go out, and I still don't know I have his keys in my pocket. So I'm looking around, you know, and don't see anything, and put my hand in my pocket just to think, and I feel 2 sets of keys. And meanwhile, Ralph is, kill the person who lost this.
Whoever took those keys is a dead
Where's
man.
my keys? Really? Yeah. I'm feeling a second pair of keys in there. I'm like, oh, jeez. Oh, no. I need this job. I want to have a living. I want to pay my rent. I want to eat. And so,
I want to breathe
so
another day.
I waited until the guys, you know, went away from this area where these chairs were in the lobby there, and I just went over when nobody was looking. I just threw the keys under the chair. And I said, oh, Ralph, you know, is this it? Is this the set of keys? And so he
not
comes
only
back.
did you steal his keys, you wanted to be the hero for rescuing
I
him.
didn't
Lying
want
to
to
him.
be.
No,
I
you just didn't want to be killed.
No, I didn't want to be a hero. So I just thought I'd give him the keys and that would be it. But instead, he looks at the chair, and he looks at the other animators standing around who had looked under the same chair and didn't find anything.
You incompetent.
You fools! It took Fitzgerald here to find my keys. You didn't find them. You know? And then he said, come with me. And so he takes me around to every single office in the studio and introduces me to the person in there who I already knew
Who
anyway.
was too incompetent to find
But
his
who was
keys.
too incompetent when they looked under the same chair to find the keys. He said, look closely at a genius.
See these
This is
eyes?
Fitzgerald. He's brilliant. You do whatever he tells you to. Because he's the only man in the studio who knows what he's doing. Then he takes me to the next desk, you know. And the person, you know, he's saying this to just sits there in fear and looking at me and, you know, smiling at me. And he takes me by the shoulders and takes me to the next cubicle all the way around the studio. For the next 2 weeks, I could do no wrong. Ralph was asking me how I was, you know, was my seat comfortable?
How was the wife and
Would I like a
kids?
Coke? He'd go get it for me, things like that. And I don't think he's ever heard
I was
this
gonna say-
story until he watches this thing that we're talking about
How long
right
do you think
now.
you'll live after this is put on DVD?
Not very long. Would you like to discuss Ralph filming on the set there?
Oh, gosh. We came up short and had to fill the better part of a half hour on first air. So Ralph basically pulled an old idea of Ralph Play Hole.
Ralph's play hole.
Ralph's Play Hole. And we put the whole thing together in about 3 days. And it was a grueling experience for everybody. I can't tell the stories.
There's a lot of good stories.
Well, I can tell one because at the time, John didn't know we were shooting live action, but nobody told me John didn't know we were shooting live action. They said he couldn't make the trip down to be John on the phone for the part that was,
Right.
because basically Ralph was saying he was going to fill in this live action thing. So I had to be John on the phone going,
Ralph, yeah, look, I'm late on the cartoon. I'm not gonna be able to get all this stuff done and fill it in, so you're gonna have to do something, all right?
and Ralph was on the set and they're filming him and I'm having to do John live for the video thing on the thing, and he kept going on and on talking on the phone, and at some point, it's like I knew this had to end, but I didn't know how to end it, and he kept saying, "What? What are you talking about?" And then going into this thing that he wanted to say, and finally, over my shoulder, somebody, might have been Steve, might not have been, said, "Hang up." And I went, "Okay, Ralph, yeah, well, you just gotta do it. All right, click." And when I hung up that phone before Ralph had finished everything Ralph wanted to say, he turned and he just...
Oh, you don't hang up on Ralph.
This man mountain who had things he wanted to say while he was talking to the phone goes, and looked directly at me off camera. What? What? I was like, oh shit, he's gonna kill me when this is over. But like a true professional, he shook it off and moved on and hung up the damn phone and went on to the next thing.
He didn't call you behind the curtain.
He didn't
after?
call it. No. I fully expected to have the and so you could see his fist on the back of my shirt.
Well, the best thing was that the set was really small. It was the Honeymooners set, and there was a curtain that came down in the beginning. So in between takes, they bring the curtain down, and you hear Ralph back there behind there with, you know, whoever Ralph was going to be balling out that hour. Going, "What the fuck you think you're doing? You're not a professional. I'm a professional."
And the cameraman, the director, everybody's just, frozen stiff listening to this voice behind the curtain, cursing and swearing.
Well, they get to be invited back there.
Oh, invited into the curtain.
Well,
Oh,
the
that's
rest of the crew stands around going, waiting for their turn.
Well, John's theory was, he said, look, forget about the film. What you want to take, the film you want to get is Ralph doing it. You want the behind the scenes is where the real comedy is.
I think that's why they lowered the curtain.
Yes.
It wasn't comedy for some people.
Ralph did a great reading of that poem that he read. Ralph is actually a good poet at his best. And I heard him do a reading of that same thing in the office at Spunko, which would break your heart. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. But when he got in front of the camera, I think he got a little flustered. And he couldn't read it right. But somebody should ask him, when they say him to do that.
Well, he had another poem ready in case we needed more time. He wrote a sequel to Malcolm the Cockroach from Coonskin. And I have a copy of that. Ralph always had me transcribe all of his notes because his handwriting is completely illegible.
Even to him?
Even to him. So he'd look at it and what this is. Figure it out, Stevie. I'd go back to my desk, I know with a magnifying glass, and I think that's an A.
It's the amazing thing about Ralph. He's actually a sort of sensitive artist and a massive bull moose yelling body.
Have you ever seen Ralph in the Black Mood?
What in the dark mood?
This Ralph.
Oh, yes, I have. That's very fearsome.
Yeah.
That's
Even
which-
even
Which
though
we tried to
Tal's
put in the
nervous,
cartoon.
she doesn't want to be around Ralph.
Yes. There were a
With
couple
Ralph,
of
you
those.
never know when he's going to blow up. I was
Yeah,
eating pizza once. I shouldn't say who it was, but somebody came into the room, somebody Ralph was working with, and and a bunch of the animators and Ralph were sitting in the rec room of the studio we're working in. And so he says, he comes with some pizzas and some Pepsi, and he says, hey, you guys, it's around lunchtime. I got some pizza for you. I thought you might like it. He puts it down, here, have some Pepsi. Gives us all some cans of Pepsi. Ralph is just sitting there with that look that Steve is doing. And I didn't catch it. You should always catch that. You should be aware when
You
it's
gotta be
on, because it
aware.
means something's going to happen. And I didn't know. So I open up the box and I think, oh boy, pizza, because
Free food.
Pizza's the food of the gods. There's no food better than pizza. So I take the pizza and I'm about to open it. I'm about to put it in my mouth. All of a sudden, Ralph just slams the table. I am utterly amazed the table didn't shatter into 1,000 pieces. I don't know whether it was made out of, beams of oak or what. But anyway, slams the thing. Bam! The pizza just goes all into the air. Because he's right beside me, and he leans a massive face into my face. What are you doing? How dare you thank him for the pizza? Oh, that was it. I thanked the guy for the pizza. How dare you thank him for the pizza?
thank you for the
Do you know the disagreements I've had with this guy? And here you are thanking him for a lousy $10 pizza. Man, once again, the lamps in the room are like vibrating like this. John is the only guy I knew who could deal with that. John, before this, there were legendary stories about Ralph's yelling, and nobody knew how to cope with it. People would just sit there in utter fear listening to this thing, because it is a fearsome thing to watch. And John was the one who said, just sit there and listen. Don't say anything, and just stare. And that unnerves Ralph when he's yelling at you.
Actually,
Threatening.
I did that on Cool World. There was a incident where Ralph was just furious about something, and he was like 3 inches from my face, going, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And spit coming in my face and the whole bit, and I'm just sitting there listening, and he finally goes like that because I'm not reacting, and he looks me right in the eye and he says, "What are you thinking?"
What are you thinking? Yeah.
And I said, "I'm thinking that my director needs something, and as soon as he's done telling me, I'm gonna go take care of it." And
What is that?
he goes, "Get the fuck out of here."
But you like Ralph, don't you?
Oh, I love Ralph.
I love Ralph
What's-
too. He's a
what's
wonderful
not to
guy.
like?
Ralph is the greatest human being on earth. He feels so passionately that when he's angry, he's really angry, and when he loves, he really loves.
Yeah,
So
the barrier's not there.